Welcome to the very first episode of my podcast, Working Mum to Business Mum, helping working mums realise their dream of starting their own business so that they can be more present in their families. I'm Debbie Lucas, and it is my absolute pleasure to be sharing all the hints, tips and information that I have learned while starting up my own coaching business so that you can feel less overwhelmed and more confident in starting or growing your own business. In this episode, I'll be covering my journey towards my dream of starting my own business, and I know that many of you will be on a similar journey. Wow, hi everyone. I can't believe I'm finally getting to record my very first episode. If you're currently listening to this, it means that I have survived the past 5 weeks from deciding to launch my own podcast to it actually being played on the airwaves. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all my friends and family who have supported me on this journey. It has kept my motivation high at times when I felt like giving up, and believe me, there were many of those. This podcast idea was born out of my experience of starting my own business whilst I am still working. It has been such a steep learning curve, and I know I still have so much more to learn. I have faced all the common mindset blocks that come with starting a new venture, but one of the biggest challenges for me has been overcoming the overwhelm of working full-time, parenting, household chores, starting my new business, and just life in general. And then I thought, why not take what I have already learned and share it with others? If I can help you avoid the overwhelm I faced, but also many of the other mindset blocks, time, money, energy, and lots of tears, why wouldn't I? On this podcast, I'll be sharing some of my own journey, what I've learned, lots of what you need to know about starting a business, and also some of the common pitfalls, including many that I have fallen into along the way. So, who am I? I am mum to a 14-year-old boy, and I went back to my full-time 9-to-5 job when my son was only 8 months old. Whilst he was still a baby, this was actually still quite manageable, believe it or not. But when he started school and participating in various after-school activities, the juggle became a struggle. Over the years, I have acquired a speeding ticket after a meeting ran on and I was rushing back to pick him up on time. I've resorted to fast food drive-thrus on the way home so that he could have something to eat before his after-school activity, getting home after 7 p.m. and then having to deal with homework and baths, etc., eventually collapsing in a heap around 9 p.m, having little time for anything else, before heading to bed and starting all over again the next day, leaving early to drop him at breakfast club before school so that I could commute to work. I've had to take time off work to attend school activities, sometimes having to ask family members to attend when I was just not able to get the time off. Feeling guilty for not being able to be there for it all. And yes, I know the pressure we put on ourselves as mums is not good, but that's a discussion for a whole other episode. But for now, I want you to know that I get you. I know you. In fact, I am you. Over the years, I have dreamt of starting my own business so that I could choose my own working hours to suit my family life. I have had so many ideas, ranging from a home baking business, running a coffee shop, selling my crochet and knitting creations. The list goes on and on. Some of them I actually started, but I never managed to stick to it or make a success of it. I always seemed to get in my own way. Always found an excuse why I couldn't or shouldn't. The mindset gremlins were always lurking, and of course, well-meaning comments from others about how hard it would be. I'm sure they were trying to be supportive and offer a dose of realism, and up to very recently, I was always very dependent on others' views and opinions when making up my own mind, but not anymore. Anywho, fast forward to around late 2019, early 2020, and I was starting to dream again about what I could do in order to give up the day job. During a conversation with a wise friend, she offered some advice that was shared with her, and that stuck with me. She said, "If you're ever starting a business, Do something that only requires your time and self. And whilst I don't recall that being a major light bulb moment in my life, something clearly struck a chord. I spent some time considering the knowledge, skills and experience that I had gathered over the span of 20 years since leaving university. I considered going down the route of retraining to become a counsellor or therapist. I even started to look into it, but I couldn't find a modality or approach that resonated with me, and so, after a half-hearted search, I stopped. Then, of course, early 2020, the world came to a standstill, and life changed for us all. I was sent to work from home in the middle of March 2020 and have been working from home for the past 20 months. As for so many of us out there, this pandemic has led to a re-evaluation of our life, really magnifying what is important to us. At this point, my son was 12 years old and entering the adolescent phase where he was going to need me less in some ways, but need me more in others. Although he'd never admit that, of course. But I really enjoyed being able to be home with him, even if I was working and he was having to do remote learning. The biggest silver lining for me was, of course, the major shift in my work-life balance. Being able to finish work and not have to commute home was amazing. However, it wasn't until the start of 2021 that I began to think about giving up the day job again. And I'm not alone. In the United States alone, there was a 24% increase in new business applications during 2020 from all walks of life. In previous courses and training that I had done through my job, I had been introduced to coaching, and I began to think about whether this was something I could do full-time. I did some research into coaching courses and found one that included NLP, or Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and there's a link to that in the show notes if you're interested in finding out more about it. I made an inquiry and spoke with a trainer and signed up there and then. Something just felt right about it. I did my practitioner course in May 2021 and immediately signed up for the Master Practitioner course, which I completed in October 2021. Between May and October, I went on this complete whirlwind of learning about how to run a coaching business. And I'll let you in on a little secret. It's not just as simple as setting up a website and a profile on all the social media platforms. To date, this has not attracted one single paying client for me. Yet I have had paying clients, and I'll tell you more about that in a later episode. The past 6 months have been such an amazing journey of self-discovery for me. So, if like me, you are fed up being tied down in a day job that dictates your working hours, and feel like you're missing out on valuable time with your family, but feel so overwhelmed or unsure that you don't know where to start, join me on this journey, which will include all the highs, the lows, the wins and fails, but also lots of helpful hints and tips. I also plan to periodically invite a guest speaker along to join us, to share their story, to share some helpful insights on various topics such as setting up a website, or managing your social media, and many, many more. I'd love to learn more about you and what your biggest challenges are. Let me know. You can find me on all the usual social media channels and in my Facebook group, Working Mum to Business Mum, and of course my website, coachingwithdebbie.com. All the links are in the show notes. And before I finish up, I would like to leave you with one last thing to ponder, a quote from Miss Dolly Parton herself. Don't get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. Join me for my next episode, where I'll be helping you to find your why. We'll dig really deep to find out what your true motivation for starting or growing your business is. And I promise you, once you really understand that, everything becomes so much clearer and easier. If you like this podcast, it would really help me a lot if you can share it, rate and review it, and if you don't want to miss the next episode, which will be released weekly, hit that subscribe button. Until then, wishing you all the best.